A couple weeks ago, I was sitting at home, and my sister, Cassie, called, and she said, Junior, I haven't heard your voice for a long time. Just wanted to hear your voice. And so we talked. She was on her way home from somewhere, and so we talked for a while, and I said, what are you up to? What are you up to today? Again, this was a few weeks ago. What are you doing today? And she said, I'm preparing Easter dinner. I said, Easter isn't for another 6 or 7 weeks. Why are you preparing your Easter dinner 6 or 7 weeks ahead of time? She said, exactly. She said, I have a lot to do. So I need to get started early. And I think by now you all know that my sister Cassie has suffered from a lot of physical problems, cancer twice and things like that. And she said, I feel good today. I feel strong. I won't have time later. So I'm going to get started now preparing Easter dinner. And that got me thinking, are you prepared for Easter? More importantly, are you prepared for heaven? Now, we're going to be looking at the Passover the next 3 weeks. And I'll be asking that question the next 3 weeks. You might be ready for Easter, but are you ready for heaven? I got to thinking about Easter dinner and the foods and the smells. See, right now, you're thinking about Easter dinner possibly when you were a kid. And all the smells in the house that reminded you of Easter. Anybody want to shout out just the smells in your house that reminded you that it was Easter?
Ham.
Ham. Just that wonderful smell of ham.
Turkey.
Turkey. Oh yeah, turkey. All right, the smell of turkey. Anything else? What is it?
Deviled eggs.
Deviled eggs.
Pie.
Pies, any particular kind of pie? Pumpkin pie. Just that wonderful smell of pumpkin pie. And of course, we've had the debate for years. Pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie. Is there a difference? The answer, of course, is yes, there's a difference. But it's just the smell. When you sit down and you can just smell that pumpkin pie, reminds you that it's Easter. Smells are tied to childhood. A couple weeks ago, we have we have a discussion group at school called Race in America. And so I co-lead this discussion group on race at our school. And so we're talking about names. And a friend of mine sent me a podcast, and it was 2 Asian American females, and they were talking about their name and how they felt that it was racist if you didn't pronounce their names correctly, or at least try to pronounce their names correctly. And so we're talking about pronouncing hard names. Well, hard for Americans would be non-American names. How do you pronounce those names? And so we were having a discussion in the hallway. A friend of ours, Bob Montz, walked up. Bob Montz is the Christian education, spiritual formation / everything else professor. But he really focuses on early childhood development. And Bob happened by and he said, the reason you can't say those names now is because you're adults. You learn how to pronounce the accents and where to place the emphasis in the first 18 months. So the first 18 months of your life, you learn how to pronounce that particular language. Like, for example, you ever wonder how a dog knows Chinese? Like if you're in China and you're talking to a dog in Chinese and it knows Chinese. How does a dog know Chinese, right? So you learn that very young. Your mind gets wired. So our minds are hardwired very early for certain smells. So I got to thinking about my family and growing up. And if there were any smells that reminded me of home or of great events, and I couldn't think of any. Now, for Dee Dee and I and our kids, we have smells. We have fried chicken. We have greens. We know my family, me and Dee Dee, our kids are together. I have those two smells. But as a kid, there's no smell that reminds me of Easter or just having fun at home. Yesterday, true story, I just want to come up here and see what you guys look like from up here. Today is Donut Sunday. I couldn't plan this any better. Today is Donut Sunday, and you know I like Dunkin' Donuts. In fact, Rosalie bought me a napkin from Dunkin' Donuts, and that napkin is hanging on my wall in my office with the year you gave it to me. I love Dunkin' Donuts. True story. Marion wanted Mellow Cream donuts, and so I went in to grab a couple Mellow Cream donuts. I came out, I got a text message. I checked the phone. It was a student who said, "I just saw you coming out of Mellow Cream. You said you like Dunkin' Donuts. Why are you coming out of Mellow Cream?" It's like 7:30 in the morning. So I texted back. I said, "They aren't for me. They're for a friend," right? So you got to be careful in Lincoln. I bought a cheesecake. I bought a cheesecake the other day. True story. A friend came up to me and said, "You shouldn't be buying that." I said, "I've got a cantaloupe to balance it off," right? So I love Dunkin' Donuts, and my favorite donut is a Boston cream donut. This is, my hands are clean, so you can have it more now. I love Boston cream donuts. They're absolutely my favorite donut. And confession time, I was eating one yesterday. And I was in the kitchen eating this donut. And then I went in and I'm in the living room and Dee Dee came in later. And I said, "Dee Dee, I don't know what it is, but I just love a Boston cream donut. It just does something to me. It's just fried dough." Somebody took some flour and some sugar and I imagine some other things and put it all in a bowl, fried it, and said, "Here." But as I was sitting there with Dee Dee yesterday, I said, "There's something about this donut that I absolutely love." Then I said, "I might start crying, but I think I know why I like this donut." When I was in the 4th and 5th grade, before my parents got divorced, I've told you this story before. Sunday morning, my dad would go to the bakery, and he'd get 2 big old boxes of Day-O donuts. And I knew when I woke up on Sunday morning and saw those 2 boxes on the tables that my parents had it at night and that we were going to church. We were going to the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Reverend Singleton. And after church, we'd probably go to Ponderosa. We'd get yelled at for touching the wrong stuff at the salad bar, but we were going to Ponderosa after church. And for some reason, it was a Boston cream donut that I always enjoyed. And after my parents got divorced, one of the things I missed the most was Sunday morning. Brown box of Boston cream donuts. And it wasn't until yesterday, talking to my wife in the chair in the living room, when I realized the power of the taste and how it's connected to memory. Turn your Bibles. Exodus chapter 11 and say amen when you get there.
Amen.
Now, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we're going to skip a couple chapters so we can get to Exodus chapter 11. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to be looking at the Passover. And we'll celebrate the Passover, of course, on Easter Sunday. And so, let's walk through this passage. Read with me, chapter 11, verse 1. Now the Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. After that, he will let you go from here. And when he does, he will drive you out completely. Now, a couple of things. First of all, the text says, now the Lord said to Moses. We've seen that formula before. This tells us that God is speaking directly to Moses. We call that revelation. Then the text says, one more plague. How many plagues were there? 10. We're starting at the end. We're starting with the 10th plague. But after Easter, we'll go back to the first one. Right? So just for review, the 10 plagues were the Nile turned to blood. Because of that, frogs came out, gnats landed on the frogs, flies came, flies landed on the livestock. We have boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and then the 10th plague. So the 9 plagues have already taken place. So we're at the 10th plague. Verse 2, read with me. Tell the people that men and women alike are to ask their neighbors for articles of silver and gold. There were no ATMs in the desert. Yesterday we moved Eric in and he had to run to the ATM and to the bank. There are no ATMs in the desert. So God is providing for his people even before they leave. Now later this year, we're going to look at Exodus 30, 31, and 32. And that's when they create a calf made out of what? Gold. Where did they get the gold in the desert to make the golden calf? Right here. Right? Verse 2. Tell the people that men and women alike are to ask their neighbors for articles of silver and gold. Read verses 3 through 5 with me. The Lord made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people, and Moses himself was highly regarded in Egypt by Pharaoh's officials and by the people. So Moses said, this is what the Lord says, about midnight I will go throughout Egypt. Now, stop there for a moment. Underline that phrase, I will. Now, in a couple of weeks, the death angel will go, of course, over each house. But this is a good reminder that it wasn't just the death angel doing this. The text says it was who? It was the Lord. I will go throughout Egypt. Verse 5. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die. From the firstborn son of Pharaoh, who sits on the throne, to the firstborn son of the female slave, who is at her handmill, and the firstborn of the cattle as well. Now, here, you might have some questions. The text clearly says that the firstborn sons, all the firstborn sons, were going to die, be killed. And you might say, that's not fair. Who was the person causing all the trouble? Who was the one person causing all the trouble for Israel? Pharaoh. So, in our minds, it would only be fair to kill who? Pharaoh's son. Or Pharaoh himself. Right? But the text says that the firstborn son of every family is going to die. Now, Douglas Stewart, in his commentary, makes a good point. He says, in order for this slavery to have gone on for so many years, it wasn't just Pharaoh who was involved, but it was all the officials who listened and followed Pharaoh's instructions, who were also involved. So that could be one reason why God did this. Another question. Which gender of the firstborns were killed? only the males, only the boys were killed. Because that's what the text says, yes? Now, you know me long enough by now to know there's something coming. Right? And I didn't realize this until this week. The NIV clearly says firstborn sons. But later on, in Exodus 12:30, it says, Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up early during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. You hear that? There was not a house with someone dead. That says what? That the females might have also died. So let's take a closer look at that phrase, firstborn son. Because the NIV translates that word, rakor, as firstborn son. The Living Bible also gives us oldest son, but then we have other translations that translate this Hebrew word rakor differently. The Message Bible says every firstborn child. Dee Dee's Amplified Bible says what?
All the firstborn in the land, the pride of joy and hope.
You hear that? The Amplified Bible just says, and all the firstborn in the land. And then Nancy's not here to give us our KJV, but the King James and the ESV say firstborn in Egypt. They don't say firstborn sons. And in fact, that word rakor simply means firstborn. Firstborn male or females. So I believe every firstborn in every household died. Male and female. That's why the text says there wasn't a house that didn't have someone who died in it. Verse 6, read it with me. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there was ever been or ever will be again. That word is interesting, wailing. Israel had been doing what for about 400 years? What? They've been slaves, and in that slavery, they did what to God? They cried out. They wailed. You see what just happened? Israel had been wailing for over 400 years. But tonight, the text says, it will not be Israel wailing, it will be the Egyptians wailing. Verse 7, read with me. But among the Israelites, not a dog will bark at any person or animal. Then you will know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. Read verse 8 through 10 with me. All these officials of yours will come to me, bowing down before me and saying, Go, you and all the people who follow you. After that, I will leave. Then Moses, hot with anger, left Pharaoh. Verse 9. The Lord had said to Moses, Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in Egypt. Verse 10. Moses and Aaron performed all these wonders before Pharaoh, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go out of his country. That's the third time now, I believe, the text says God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And we've already covered that, and Michael covered that last week. Now let's go into verse 12, chapter 12. Read the first 10 verses there. Read verse 1 first. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt. Moses and Aaron, what was their title? What was their job? What function did they have?
Go talk to Pharaoh.
They talked to Pharaoh. They were prophets. What other function did they serve? They were the first priest. And now we're getting ready to have the instructions for the Passover. So it just makes sense that you would give the priest the instructions for Passover. Verse 2, read with me. This month is to be for you the first month of your year. Emily, go to our next slide. All right, so let's look at the calendar. Now today is what, April 7th? Right? So when does our calendar, right now, when does our calendar start?
January.
Our calendar starts in January. Now, in some agricultural settings, like ours, in some agricultural settings, you plan your calendar based on what? That's right, what season it is. Is it planting season? Which, if it ever stops raining, I imagine we can finally get out in the fields and start planting, right? April 15th, that's the key day.
That's a nice day.
April 15th, Tiny stops working for the IRS, taking our money, and then our farmers get to get out and get in the fields. April 15th. And so in our minds, we look at our calendar as either a planting time, or after they're done planting, they'll go to Florida for 3 months. When they're done bathing in the sun, then they'll come back, and it'll be time for what? Harvest. And so in agricultural times, they plan their calendar based on the season. Now, when you just go to work, you don't care what season it is, because you got to punch a time block and go to work, right? But for farmers, it's different. Either it's a fall planting, fall harvest season, or a spring planting season. Now, in the A&E, Ancient Near East, they plan their calendars around the fall. So for the Canaanite people and the people in that area, their calendars started in the fall. So it's possible, we don't know this, but it's possible that one of the reasons God does this in the spring is to change their concept of time from worshiping other gods to worshiping Him. We don't know that for sure, but it does make sense, right? So the Israelites' entire calendar now is about to be changed from a fall harvest calendar to a spring planting calendar. And so if you look here, March and April was Nisan. Nisan is the name for March and April, and that's when the Feast of Passover is about to start. When do we celebrate Easter?
Most years in April.
Right about now, right? So this is when we celebrate Easter, and it all started right here during March and April. So again, verse 2, this month, the month of Nisan, is to be for you the first month of your year. So again, their entire calendar was now changed. Verse 3, read with me. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. And we'll go to the next slide. Alright, so that's a little blurry, I know, but I wanted to blow it up so we can see it. Alright, so we're in March and April, the month of Nisan. The text says, on March or April 10th, the Passover lamb was chosen. You with me? Alright, so March or April 10th, they chose that Passover lamb. And the text says, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. Right? So they're like my sister. They're getting these preparations started early. I mean, after all, you don't want to wait until the last minute to start preparations for this new festival, right? What happens when you wait till the last minute? Your wife sends you to Walmart to get cinnamon, and when you get there, what do you find? No cinnamon. Why? Because I waited till the last minute to go get the cinnamon. So it's possible that God had them get started early so they can make sure to have all the ingredients. Verse 4, read it with me. If any household is too small for a whole lamb, they must share one with their nearest neighbor, having taken into account the number of people there are. You are to determine the amount of lamb needed in accordance with what each person will eat. So we decided last Sunday, we celebrated Eric's birthday, so we took him out to a nice restaurant, and we had a nice meal there. And you know how hard it is to get your kids together at the same time. So you got to plan all the activities for the year when you have them all together, right? So we said, now Christmas time is coming. Where are we going to celebrate Christmas at? Should we go on vacation during Christmas? Let's put that on the calendar now, right? So we had to plan all these events. Ashley's birthday is next month. So we had to plan, are we going to celebrate Ashley's birthday, right? Thanksgiving is coming up. We've never hosted. I should probably hit pause right now.
Yep.
Don't hit it, but I should. So Thanksgiving is coming up, and we're thinking about inviting our family, both sides, right, to our house for Thanksgiving. So A, if we pull it off, great. B, if you don't see us at church, you'll know why. But we're going to try to bring all our family down. So, what do we have to ask? What questions do we have to ask? What? Right, how many people are coming, right? Now, does it really matter who comes?
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people eat a lot, and some people don't eat any, right? So we have to calculate who's coming, how much he or she might eat, and then we need to buy apparently another freezer to start buying stuff now to put in that freezer, right? Because wouldn't it be horrible if it was time to serve the meal and everybody got turkey except you got to the last person and you had to say, Janine, I'm so sorry, I didn't calculate right. Would you like some cauliflower? Right? No one wants to do that. And so here, God is simply saying, you need to figure out how much food is going to be needed. Right? Verse 5.
The host should always eat last.
Right, the host should eat last. So I'll eat some Boston cream donuts to hold me over until then. All right. Verse 5, read it with me. The animals you choose must be year-old males without defect, and you may take them from the sheep or the goats. Now, I didn't know this until last week as I was working on this. Why the males? Why not just go randomly grab one and butcher it? Why the males? And what else? Now, when Chad and I go to KFC, we just want chicken. We don't care where chicken came from, we just want chicken. But if you're raising your own cattle, you might not want to kill all the females because they produce other females, or other animals anyway, right? So you can knock off the males, but you want to save the females because they have to breed more, they might need to be milked, so it made perfect sense why he would say, go knock off the males and not the females. Verse 6, read it with me. Take care of them until when? The 14th day of the month, when all the members of the community of Israel must slaughter them when? At twilight. Two things. Look at the calendar. So on the 10th day, Passover lamb was chosen. 4 days later, on the 14th, the Passover lamb was sacrificed. All right? When was that Passover lamb sacrificed? Why at twilight? What was the spiritual significance of sacrificing the animals at twilight? Couldn't they just go get some flashlights when it got dark? Couldn't they just go grab some flashlights and put the flashlights out so they could see how to butcher the animals? Well, no, because there were no flashlights. So they couldn't go grab flashlights, right? Eric moved into his place yesterday, and we were getting ready to leave. And Eric, true story, Eric said, wait, you can't leave yet until I turn off all the lights. So he went through every room and turned off all the lights. Right? So wait a minute. At our house, you slept with a hairdryer and a fan going all through the night. But now, your first day here, you want to turn off all the lights. And he got to a room and he couldn't find the light switch. I said, just unscrew the bulb. We'll save some money that way. Right? So twilight was important because it takes a long time to do all this butchering. Now, I got to be honest. I've never butchered anything except for a sermon or two. But I've never butchered an animal, announcements. But I've never butchered an animal before. Now, I've started smoking meat, and that takes a long time, right? But I don't butcher the meat before I smoke it. I go to Walmart and buy it. But imagine all the time needed to butcher these animals. That's why they had to start at twilight, simply so they'd have enough light to finish all the preparations. You're prepared for Easter, but are you prepared for heaven? Verse 7, read it with me. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. We'll get back to that next week. Verse 8, read it with me. That same night, they are to eat the meat, how? Roasted over fire, along with what? Bitter herbs and bread made. Now, why these three things? One, why roast the meat? Why not pop it in the microwave? There were no microwaves. And roasting the meat was the quickest way to cook it, right? That's true. Now, hold on to that. We're coming back to that, actually. Right? So, roasting it was the quickest way to cook it. Number two, bitter herbs. Why bitter herbs? Because they were already ready to go. They didn't have to be prepared. They didn't have to be seared or other preparations you take to make herbs. That's why the bitter herbs. Number three, you know this one. Why bread? Not that bread. Let's use this bread. Why bread without yeast?
You have to wait till it's ready.
That's right. We didn't have time. Now, there was no Walmart. They couldn't just go to Walmart and buy bread, right? We had to go buy a queen-fitted sheet yesterday for Eric's bed. And I didn't know what a queen-fitted sheet was. And then we had to get a cover sheet. And I wasn't sure. So Dee said, send Eric. I said, no, because we'll both have to go back. Let's just save time. Eric and I will both go. Then you get to Walmart, and all I didn't need 1,000 bread or 18,000 breads for $35. I wanted a sheet for $6. That's all I wanted. I couldn't find it. So what did I do? I called Dee Dee. Put on a video call. And I took her down the aisles. I said, all right, you tell me when. I'm out of time. I gotta go home. I gotta finish the sermon next week. So I said, I know what you told us to get, and they all sound similar, and I know I'm going to buy the wrong thing. A, I'm not buying this expensive thing here. B, you need to tell me what to get, right? And so we went, and she said, right there, grab that one, grab that, put it closer. She said, yep, that's what we need. And so then we went and found the sheets, right? She said, there, grab that one. I said, all right, that's what we need. And so that's how we got them, right? Hopefully they're the right ones. Because we were in a hurry. That's the point. That's why I'm telling you this story. Bread without yeast, because they're in a hurry, right? Verse 9, read it with me. Do not eat the meat raw or boiled in water, but roast it over a fire with the head, legs, and internal organs. Now, some of you are saying, who wants to eat internal organs, right? So, very quickly, number one, Mike was right? So, number one, it says, do not eat the meat raw or boiled, right? And we still aren't sure if sushi is raw meat or not. I like it, but we don't know if it's raw or not. But Dee Dee hates it because it might be raw, right? But this meat, they couldn't eat raw. It would be nasty and they might get sick. Now, why couldn't they boil it?
Take too long.
Exactly, right? It would take too long. So, and then what's up with the head, the legs, and the internal organs?
Nothing was wasted.
Nothing was wasted, right? So they ate the internal organs. There's another smell. I remember two smells. Three smells. First smell I remember as a kid was the smell of chitlins. Anybody ever have chitlins? Chitlins stink, right? And I didn't know if chitlins are pig nuts. You ever have chitlins? Growing up, we had chitlins all the time. On Easter, my family, they're watching, my family would be having chitlins on Easter, right? Chitlins are just pig guts. I didn't know that until I came in the house and I said, what is that horrible, nasty smell? And Mama said, those are chitlins. And I said, they don't smell like that when we eat them. She said, I haven't cleaned them yet. And so she was cleaning, right? Second smell, I remember, was going to Church's Chicken. Anybody ever go to Church's Chicken? We'd go to laundromat, put the clothes in the washing machine, go down the street to Church's Chicken, and Mama would order gizzards and liver. We got to eat real chicken, but Mama ate gizzards and lizards. It was cheap. Not lizards, but that's it. We gotta go home. Right? So it was the internal organ meat that they had to eat. Now, verse 10, we gotta hurry up. I'm out of time. Verse 10. Do not leave any of it till morning. If some is left till morning, you must burn it. Why can't I just stick it in the refrigerator until the next day? And they were the morning, you won't be here in the morning. Verse 11, read it with me. This is how you are to eat it, with your cloak tucked into your belt, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. How do you feel when people come to your house and they keep their coat on? They're just kind of pacing back and forth, and they've got their coats on. What do you tell them?
Take your coat off, stay a while.
That's right. Take your coat off, stay a while. Now, I want you to leave eventually, but I don't want you to leave yet. Take off your coat, stay a while. Why did they keep their shoes on and the coats on? They're getting ready to go. Here's a question. I've never done this before, honestly, but we're going to put a pause in this sermon, and we're going to pick it up next week. Here's the question. You're ready for Easter, but are you ready for heaven? Next week, we're going to look, and Jesus says, I won't eat this meal again until I eat it with you, where? In heaven. But you can't get to heaven if you aren't prepared and if you aren't ready. Next week, I'll say this longer, but next week I'll say this. The way you get prepared for heaven is to have the blood of the Passover lamb cover you and cover your sins. And when your sins have been covered by the blood of the Passover lamb, God looks at you and God justifies you by the blood of the lamb. And when you have been justified by the blood of the lamb, God then declares you righteous. And when God declares you righteous because of the blood of His Son, you're then ready for heaven. You're ready for Easter, but are you ready for heaven? Let's stand.